My name is Karen C. Morels, and I serve on the board of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. I want to welcome everyone to our service this morning and welcome visitors to our open and inclusive community of faith. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another as we explore these paths. I would like especially to welcome our guests and welcome again those who have visited us before. Visitors, it is our custom of our congregation to invite you to stand and give your name and where you are from, only if you feel comfortable doing so. Are there any visitors who would like to introduce themselves this morning? All right, welcome. Welcome. Anyone else? There's some nudging and giggling going on. Welcome to everyone visiting today. Please join us after the service for coffee hour. We would love to have a chance to get to know you better. Our congregation, people are sick today. Our minister, Reverend Tom Capo, is usually here. Mary Law, our congregational life coordinator, is also out sick. I will be here after the service, as will other board members, to say hello down in Creeves Hall during coffee hour. For those of you who are live streaming via YouTube, please be aware that during times of sharing joys and concerns, the live stream will go blank, and the live stream will return after Joys and Concerns concludes. Our service can be heard through the glass doors at the back. Should anyone feel the need to leave the service for any reason, there are chairs out and back for your convenience. As we start the service, if you could please turn off electronic devices. Thank you very much.
We believe that we should accept one another and keep on learning together.
Good morning. Good morning. Today we gather to remember that which matters most. What matters most is not always what urgently demands our attention. It does not always have the most likes on Facebook. Sometimes the things that matter most are easy to know, but hard to remember, difficult to act on. Let us take some time this morning to remember and to remind each other. In that spirit, I offer you this reading from our hymnal. Its author is unknown. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
It is time to gather. This is when we gather together as a community for a story or a lesson during the service. After the time to gather, we will sing a song, and then I'll lead the children with their teachers to the religious education classes. Today, I'd like to invite the young and the young at heart to come forward and sit up here in front with me on our gathering quilt. So our theme this month is memory, and what it means to be a people of memory. And today I want to talk about remembering what we value and what really matters. So if you could get any gift you wanted for the upcoming holidays, what would you want? Ellie?
I would say maybe I don't know, a gift certificate for something.
A gift certificate for something? What do you want?
A game.
Ezra wants a game. All right. What else? What are some of the best toys out there right now? Sophia?
An owl toy.
An owl toy? Is that what it is? All right. Others are nodding, so that must be right. Stefan?
Maybe video games.
Video games? So what would it be like to have as many dollar bills as you'd like, to where you can buy anything you wanted? What would that be like? Stefan?
Awesome.
Awesome, right? So at this season, the stores want us to buy a lot of stuff. They say that buying stuff will make us happy. You agree, Timothy? But they want us to go shopping like right after Thanksgiving dinner, to go out and shop for gifts for everybody. And they call this Black Friday. So Thanksgiving dinner, Thursday, through all day Friday is Black Friday. And that's the time of the year where the stores are actually making money. So when you do accounting, when you're not making money, the numbers you write are in red. The numbers that when you are making money, you write them in black. So Friday is the day that they start using their black pen. So the industry has turned this into a celebration. They call it Black Friday. But our society says getting more and more money and buying stuff will make us happy. But think about it. What about the stuff that you get that you end up not using? You know, something that after the first hour, it goes in the closet for the rest of the year. Or maybe it breaks. Or maybe it didn't live up to its promise. It wasn't quite as fun as you thought it was going to be. So there's some people out there, they said, let's look at doing this a little bit different. And they say, instead of Black Friday, let's call it Buy Nothing Day. And let's focus on family and friends and doing things together. So it's opt out, and it's opt outside day. Go outside. It was a nice day Friday, right? Mm-hmm. So rather than being in the store, buying all this stuff, consumerism. Let's go outside and let's enjoy our time together. So with this, the idea is that we're remembering what our values are, and we're remembering what matters. So if we could spend our money on our values, what things do you think we would buy? What do we value? Timothy? Food, yes. Food is a important thing. Ellie? Water. Becky?
Recyclable products.
Recyclable products. Peace. Happiness. Friendship. Family. Yes, Stephen?
Donations.
Donations, helping people. So, thank you. You did a great segue for me. So instead of complicated toys, what kind of presents that might we ask for? And one of the things we can do is we can help people. We can do things together. So at our church, we do a thing called Guest at Your Table. And with this is a program through the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And the idea is that you put this box on your table. See the little slot on the top? So you put it on your table, and during dinner, you're inviting guests to come, but instead of actually having them come, we're going to give them gifts. And you might put $1 in here or $2 in here at every meal. And then in January, we'll collect these boxes, and we'll send these to the service committee. And this year, what the service committee is focusing on is helping people that are migrating, that are looking for asylum. So it is providing lawyers for them when they get to the border. It is making sure that they are getting help during their travels. So the people that are people that are coming from countries where they don't feel safe, because either there's war going on, or there's a lot of gangs, or it's not fair for them that the people that are running the country don't make sure that they have food and money, or a safe place to live, or safe food, or safe water. So they are seeking asylum, which means they're looking for a place, another country that will take them in. So they're replacing their old country that they don't feel safe in, and they're looking for a new country. But to do that, there's a lot of law things that they have to go through, a lot of rules that they have to go through. So what they're doing is making sure that the people that are coming across have that help. So we have Guest at Your Table boxes. They are out in the narthex if you'd like to pick them up on the way out. Also, the 1st through 6th grade class, they'll be getting blank boxes in their class, and they'll be decorating them. So they'll be getting boxes also. There's another thing that we do at our church that helps people. Have any of you helped out with PADS? Can you tell me what PADS is? Becky, would you like to tell us what PADS is?
Sure. PADS is a homeless shelter that it moves around from church to church, and we help out once a month. We
set up mattresses for them to sleep on the floor for the homeless people to come in. We supply dinner, we supply breakfast, we supply a brown bag lunch. So it gives the homeless people a place to sleep and food for the day. And it moves around church to church, and we do it once a month. And we have to have someone that coordinates all the stuff that happens with this. And Ms. Karen would like to tell us a little bit about coordinating PADS.
I love PADS. When PADS is over near my house in the summer, I'm a regular participant, and sometimes during the holiday season in Naperville. But I have to tell you, we are at a bit of a crossroads with PADS right now. We have been doing PADS for more than 15 years as a church. Jackie Delmain brought it here, and over the years we have had a number of people step up and do what is a pretty significant volunteer job. Don Roberts has been an organizer of PADS at times. You all might remember Jesse Capel stepping up as a high school student to help organize PADS on a monthly basis, which amazed me at the time. Peter Schulman provided leadership for PADS, and lately Jane Blumen has been kind of the guiding light of PADS at our church, month in and month out. And she has done an amazing job. Those are big shoes to fill. She has to step down after December. And right now we have not identified the next leadership for that amazing program. If you think, hey, maybe I'm the one, or maybe I could be a part of the team that is willing to step up and make that happen, I need to hear from you. Like I really need to hear from you soon. Or Jane needs to hear from you if you'd like to know a little bit more about what that commitment really means. I know PADS is important to all of us here. I know it takes a large number of people. Actually, Leslie's here today. She could tell you a lot about organizing PADS as well. I think supporting this especially vulnerable population at a time of year where they need our help more than ever is very meaningful to all of us, and I hope it's one we can continue to be a part of for years to come.
Thank you, Karen. As we remember what we value and what really matters, let's sing together. I will lead the children and teachers out after the first verse. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 1012 in the Teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened. The words will be projected.
Now is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing the joys and concerns that some of us carry in our hearts. During this time of reverence and fellowship, we affirm that as a community we share in your sorrow and rejoice in your happiness. When you come forward, please say your name and share one or two sentences about a joy or concern in your personal life that we may walk with you in the days to come. If you cannot move to the microphone, please raise your hand and we will bring it to you. You are now invited to come forward to share with this, your faith community.
Andrew C. Kennedy writes, "We come to love a church, the traditions, the history, and especially the people associated with it. And through these people, young and old, known and unknown, we reach out, both backward into history and forward into the future, to link together the generations of this imperfect but blessed community of memory and hope." This morning, 3 members of our congregation will share a personal story of connection with our church, a story of a time that they were reminded what really matters through their involvement here. In this season of Thanksgiving and this moment of transition at our church, we hope that these stories will remind us of the ways our church community sustains and grounds us and inspire us to find new sources of connection.
Hello everyone, my name is Clara Brubaker. So as someone who grew up in this church, I got to reap the benefits of this place from a very young age. I got to participate in our wonderful RE program and explore other religions through neighboring faiths, reflected deeply on my own spirituality and coming of age, and connected with other UU youth outside of our church during Con. Whenever I told my friends at school about these things, they responded with confusion, "You know what?" swiftly followed by respect and not so subtle jealousy. All of these experiences helped me to unearth things about myself and how to interact with the world that I otherwise would probably not have discovered for a long time. While I've had many experiences here that have been special and shaped who I am, a more recent experience showed me that this church still has a wealth of knowledge to tap into, no matter what age you are. It was just last Sunday, actually, that 7-year-old Ellie Hobbs led Becky Charmley Freitag and I in an impromptu athletics session in Creeves Hall, teaching us things she had learned in yoga and ballet. I'm proud to say that we kept up quite well and learned a lot of new moves. We were definitely sore the next day, though. It was such a fun and refreshing experience, and I was reminded of how special our church is. I really can't think of another place that this could happen so easily and naturally. And it's wonderful how we can facilitate real connection and real fun between the generations. At its best, our church can give everyone, regardless of age, race, gender, ability, or sexual orientation, the opportunity and confidence to teach and the humility and openness to listen. At its heart, I really think this church is a special place to strip away barriers and recognize that you are just a human trying to figure it out, seeking meaningful connection with other people and the world.
A reading by Dana Warsnop. Often people say they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people at church on Sunday. I know just what they are getting at, and I know they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved or to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion and justice, love, and truth, though they may have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. And I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name for God. I want to be with people who see me with my goodness and my dignity, and who also see my failings and my foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls on our earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope of life and hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another and follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises that I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you.
Good morning. My name is Robert Scrocky, and as you know, we were asked to share a memory of a time when we felt really involved, included, supported, or empowered by our church community in ways that connected us to things that really matter. So I felt moved to choose January 10th, 2012, a board meeting when I was board president, and the decision before us was whether to go ahead to build a new sanctuary. In retrospect, I experience this now as a time of multiple, real, and authentic conversations with a sense of community and belonging and excitement of pursuing a common dream, a sort of a peak experience of engaging with others, stepping forward in hope into an unknown future. It was a bold decision to make our church community a stronger, more vibrant, and growing part of the UU community of churches in our area. It also helped me to lean into and live into who I am. I'm a social worker with an INFP Myers-Briggs type, which Clara told me is the idealist type. And I looked it up on the internet and between services, and I guess only 4% of us are INFPs, so it's a relatively rare type. It's a healer type person. So I really enjoy processing and getting people to share, not particularly making decisions, but I love processing things. So in a sense, being board chair and getting all the opinions and points of view of the different board members was sort of right up my alley. I think, by the way, that this is one of the benefits of board and committee work in our church community, offering opportunities to learn leadership by engaging with others in real-life, complex decision-making. Notice that I said in retrospect, for during the decision-making process, what I experienced was often high anxiety, ambivalence, doubt, and heated conflictual discussions with both individuals and groups. The decision facing us as a board wasn't an easy decision. The dream of a new, eco-friendly, air-conditioned, larger Sunday morning gathering space with a lower level that could host periodic pads, homeless shelter groups. This was the embodiment of the hopes of our church community to grow in its ability to live out our values. And we'd been talking about it for years, maybe even for decades. Even though we had a vibrant and growing community, there was disagreement as to whether we could grow our membership enough to support this new addition. It was a huge responsibility to make a major financial commitment on behalf of the whole community after years of exploring options and getting input. And it was complicated by the aftermath of the financial recession and the additional unanticipated costs needed to become annexed to the city of Naperville for water and sewer services. That's why my slide presentation shows the image of a crucible for what I might call the spiritually transformative journey of trying to live out our values when the way forward is not clear. So what did the board decide? After many hours of emotionally laden discussion, we came up with a board resolution that we unanimously approved. It stated, for example, in summary, that all other alternatives had been explored in terms of finding other church sites, and building on the site was the least expensive and best option. It also reiterated that we remembered that several years before, fundraising had begun and been approved, and that the most cost-efficient design that met our dreams for the future had been chosen. And the next slide shows a little of the wording of, we projected that the financial risks were reasonable and consistent with projected growth in membership. And finally, the last few points detailed that we decided to get a construction loan and start construction. And the last slide here shows our shaky signatures as we nervously put our John Hancocks down there, so to speak. And for any of you who've ever signed a mortgage or a major loan, it felt like both an individual and collective irrevocable stepping forward in hope into an unknowable future. I still get a little emotional thinking back to what you might call the trauma and emotional upheaval of that time, and reflecting on it for this talk is in some ways healing. Some members of the church resigned, thinking we had made the wrong financial decision. Others thought we should go with a much less expensive basic design from plans developed years earlier. I suppose the diversity of opinion is inevitable, and leaders don't always make the right decisions in retrospect, but I'm grateful that they step up and do their best on our behalf. I love this church. It's like my extended family. And I so appreciate the people here, and especially the members who take on leadership roles on our behalf.
Good morning. My name is Jo Lindsley, and my experience dates back to a camping trip several years ago where we were camping with several members of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church at Starved Rock State Park. I had been with the group a couple of times before, so I learned the lay of the land. I had a good idea of what to pack and what not to pack. I had also learned that even if I forgot some vital thing, I could ask around and somebody would be willing to share. I looked forward to that weekend, both because I knew I had planned and packed well, and also because I knew that I could trust that we would take care of each other. New on my packing list that year was my trusty walking stick, my stand-in walking stick here. From years past, I had learned that I was camping with some very serious hikers. You know who you are, George. Oh, he's not here, darn it. From years past, I had learned that I'm sorry. So a staff seemed like more than just a decorative accessory. It seemed like a vital piece of equipment. It had been raining all that week. The Illinois River was above flood stage, and we had some heavy rain overnight on Friday. Those of you who have been to Starved Rock will recognize this illustration as how the canyon heads usually look at midsummer. But the next morning, after all that heavy rain, many of us were excited at the prospect of hiking to see actual waterfalls. Most years you only see them in the early spring. Now, this prospect of seeing the canyon in a different way was intriguing. How often does this happen? We had both teens and younger children in our group, and I have to say the adults were excited about children of all ages getting to see and have this experience. My daughter and granddaughter were with us that year, even though they live in Champaign. And although Emily is often in touch with her adventurous inner child, she remembers being sort of freaked out about hiking through floodwater. She said she feared that someone would injure themselves in a fall on the muddy, slippery trail and need to be carried out. Perhaps she mentioned the possibility of bacteria or parasites in the water. Strangely enough, I have no memory of her voice of alarm. After all, I'd brought my walking stick. So I felt confident I could handle the hike. And the serious hikers in our group, who knew the trail well, weren't going to let a little water slow them down. Our collective spirit of confidence, sprinkled with a healthy dose of childlike wonder, won out, and we set off for the morning. When we got to the part where we were crossing the stream on stepping stones that were just beneath the top of the water, I definitely noticed that they were getting pretty slippery. Then we got to the section where some of the stepping stones were under the surface of the water and harder to see. A couple of us stepped off the stones and stood in knee-deep water so we could point the way for others and offer a steadying hand for those who wanted it. At that point, I felt pretty clever for having brought my staff, because I could help point out the stepping stones in front of people. And when I touched the next stone in the progression, it not only showed how far ahead it was, but also how far below the water it was. So it helped people to make the step with a little bbit more confidence. The process of helping each person as they came by became meditative at one point. And when I looked up for a moment, I was struck by how calm everyone was. In this risky terrain, parents with smaller children and adults with balance issues trusted that the rest of us would help them through. I remember wanting to take a picture that would remind me of that moment, but as I looked around, I couldn't figure out what perspective would do the job, and I really didn't want to stop what I was doing. I was enjoying taking care of people as they moved along. So I don't have an authentic image to share. We do have an image of what the canyon might have looked like when we got there that day. It was beautiful, and the experience was truly magnificent. Children and adults alike frolicked in the water. And I was struck by the realization that people had probably gathered there for as long as there had been people living on this continent. We shared a light lunch and headed back to our campsites. Perhaps predictably, I fell later that day and skinned my knee badly, but my daughter Emily was prepared. She had clean water to rinse my knee, an antibacterial wipe, and a good-sized Band-Aid, and she finished off by tying my bandana around my knee to make sure the bandage stayed on until we made it back to camp. Every time I look at the scar on my knee, I am reminded of her resourcefulness and how it may have saved me from a nasty infection that day. Looking back on these experiences, I realized that I didn't need a picture to remind me. The memory of what mattered that day, the planning, but also the trust and the mutual caretaking has stuck with me over the years, and I feel especially bonded to some of the people I got to know better that year. We kept each other safe on that slightly dangerous hike, and we spent some time at a destination with echoes of all humans over millennia who have made that journey. Like the scar on my knee, those memories will be with me for the rest of my life.
Here are the words of Reverend Leslie Takahashi. Here in this place of peace, may we find hope. Here in this place of connection, may we find life-giving community. Here in this place of rest, Let the unrest of our hearts turn us toward justice. Here in this place, made sacred by memories of connection, let us each feel ourselves part of the new that grows from the old in the spiraling unity of the years. The offering for the good of this beloved community will now be given and gratefully received.
My father Royal, whom some of you know, he's a member here, once told me that if you take any human institution, a government, a book club, a pluralist religious organization, and boil it down to what really matters, you will find people are at the heart of it. People, I remember him telling me. I remember where I was sitting when he told me, people, Katie, people are what really matter. And that memory has come back to me this week while working on the service with Kelly. And it has resonated in my mind many times before that. I am reminded of it when I vote. I am reminded of it when I parent. I am reminded of it when I make decisions as a lay leader of our church. People, though, is a deceptively simple answer to the question, what matters most? Because if I believe that people are what matters most, then people aren't just important when I have power over them or when I love them and I want to make their life easier. People are also of great importance when they disagree with me, when they vote to take away what I consider to be my rights. People are still just as important when we are at odds with them, and just as important as when we march arm in arm together. And I haven't always agreed with my fellow members of this congregation, but I truly believe that every one of us does matter. And the moments when I have politely disagreed with an elder of our church, which took a lot of courage, it was someone that I truly respected, and they listened respectfully to my opinion, or the time when someone told me that I had hurt them and I tried to apologize. Those are the moments when I have grown most in character, mind, and spirit as a member of this congregation. The challenge of loving each other, because people are what really matter, is the greatest gift that this congregation has given me. And I'm deeply grateful today to Clara and Joe and Robert for sharing some of the stories of their lives and allowing us to get to know them better through that sharing. We hope that in these closing days of November, you will all consider what people, ideas, and memories are truly important to you, and perhaps even what experiences at our church have made a meaningful impression on your life. We also hope that you will share them with each other. I am reminded of this reading by Wayne Ernison. Take courage, friends. The way is hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. But take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. May we remember this together.
As we extinguish our chalice today, let us carry its flame in our hearts, affirming our connections with one another and the love and gratitude we all share. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing We Laugh, We Cry, number 354 from our gray hymnal. We will be singing verses 1 and 4 only. church exists to proclaim the gospel that each human being is infinitely precious, that the hidden meaning of our lives lies hidden in our interactions with each other. We wish to be a church where we encounter each other with wonder, appreciation, and expectation, and where we call out of each other's strengths, wisdom, and compassion that we never knew we had. Now I invite you to greet those around you, especially those you don't know. Let us share the love of our community with all.